Today, we're going to talk about a landmark you probably feel like you know pretty well, the Great Pyramid of Giza. But what if I told you the story we've all been taught is, well, not the whole story? We were about to dive deep into a mystery that doesn't just rewrite the history books, it might just rewrite our entire understanding of the ancient world. So the story we learn in school is super simple, right? The pyramids were just these giant, fancy tombs for the pharaohs. It's in every textbook. But here's the fundamental problem with that. Archaeologists have never found a pharaoh's mummy inside any of the Great Pyramids. Not one. And that single inconvenient fact kind of unravels the entire official story.
And this leads us to what I like to call the pyramid paradox. It's where we put the official story in one corner and the hard archaeological evidence in the other, and we see which one is left standing.
So on one side, you have the story that's been told for generations. And on the other, you have a complete lack of proof. This forces us to ask a really basic question. If they weren't built as tombs, then what on earth were they for? To even begin to answer that, we have to look a lot closer at the pyramid itself.
Because when you start to really dig into how the Great Pyramid was built, the mystery just gets deeper and deeper. You see, this wasn't just some big construction project, this was engineering done with a perfection that seems, well, frankly, impossible for its time.
Let's really stop and think about that for a second. How could a civilization, supposedly using simple copper tools and stone hammers, achieve a level of accuracy that would make modern engineers sweat, even with all of our lasers and computers?
First off, let's just try to get our heads around the sheer scale of this thing. This isn't just a big building, it's practically an artificial mountain. We're talking 2.3 million stone blocks, and many of them weigh as much as an elephant. Its base covers 13 acres. The size is just staggering. But believe it or not, it's the precision that is truly mind-bending.
Get a load of this number. The four sides of the base, each one over 750 feet long, are accurate to each other to within 99.98%. You know what that means? The difference in length between the longest side and the shortest side is less than 2 inches. It's an almost perfect square on a scale that is just monumental.
But it gets even crazier. Across that whole 13-acre footprint, the entire foundation is leveled to within just 3/4 of an inch. To get that kind of accuracy over such a huge area today, you would absolutely need sophisticated laser leveling gear. So, how'd they pull it off?
And if all of that wasn't enough to blow your mind, the entire pyramid is aligned almost perfectly to true north. This thing wasn't just a building, it was a massive, precision-engineered instrument. And that kind of precision suggests that its builders knew a whole lot more than just how to stack some big rocks.
You know, this incredible precision leads us to a fascinating question. What if the pyramid's dimensions weren't random at all? What if they actually encode advanced knowledge, a cosmic blueprint written in stone? How could these builders possibly have known the size of our planet 4,500 years ago?
Okay, so to understand this next part, we need a quick refresher on the solar equinox. It's simple. It happens twice a year, and it's when the day and night are perfectly balanced, 12 hours of day, 12 hours of night. That specific moment seems to be the key.
So 12 hours. How many seconds is that? It's 43,200. Now I want you to burn that number into your brain, because it appears to be the magic scaling factor that connects the Great Pyramid directly to the size of planet Earth.
Okay, now check this out. It's absolutely wild. Proponents of this theory show that if you take the pyramid's original height and you multiply it by our magic number, 43,200, you get the polar radius of the Earth with 99.6% accuracy. Whoa. But then it gets better. If you take the perimeter of the pyramid's base and multiply it by that exact same number, you get the equatorial circumference of the Earth, again, with over 99% accuracy. Now, you could probably write off one of those calculations as just a wild coincidence, but two different measurements mapping the pyramid to both the radius and the circumference of the planet using the same key number derived from the equinox? That starts to feel a lot like intentional, sophisticated design.
And the final piece that ties this all back to the equinox is this incredible detail. You see, the Great Pyramid doesn't actually have 4 sides. It has 8. Each of the 4 main faces is slightly indented down the middle, a feature so subtle you can't even see it from the ground. It only becomes visible from the air during sunrise and sunset on the exact days of the solar equinox.
So the pyramid is a clear marvel of engineering and mathematics. But what if it's also a calendar? One that points to a time thousands of years before ancient Egypt even existed. Some researchers are convinced that the stars above and the stones below provide evidence for a much, much older origin story. So there's this idea made famous by researcher Graham Hancock called the Orion correlation theory. It argues that the way the three Giza pyramids are laid out on the ground isn't random. It's a deliberate map, a perfect mirror image of the three stars in Orion's belt up in the sky.
But here's the twist. That perfect alignment between the ground and the sky, it doesn't work for 2500 BCE, which is when we're told the pyramids were built. Because the Earth has this slow wobble on its axis, it's called precession, the view of the stars changes over long periods of time. The theory goes that the star map in the sky only perfectly matches the pyramid map on the ground in one specific era, 10,500 BCE. That's a full 8,000 years before the pharaohs.
That ancient date sounds completely impossible, until you go look at the Sphinx right next door. Some geologists have argued for years that the deep erosion on its body isn't from wind and sand, it's from thousands of years of heavy rain. But Giza has been a bone-dry desert for over 5,000 years. The last time this region saw enough rainfall to cause that kind of erosion, you guessed it, before 9000 BCE. All of a sudden, the geology on the ground and the astronomy in the sky are pointing to the exact same, impossibly ancient time frame.
So this is where all the evidence seems to be pointing. If the pyramids appear to be far older and way more advanced than the ancient Egyptians we know, we're left with a huge question. If they didn't build them, then who did?
Maybe the biggest clue of all is what's missing. The ancient Egyptians were obsessive record keepers. They documented everything: wars, harvests, gods, daily life. And yet, in the thousands upon thousands of hieroglyphs they left behind, there is a deafening silence. Not a single text has ever been found that describes how or why or when the Great Pyramids were built.
So let's just lay out the case one more time. We have engineering precision that just shouldn't exist in the Bronze Age. We have advanced knowledge of our planet's exact size encoded in its dimensions. We have celestial alignments and geological evidence all pointing to the same time, over 12,000 years ago. And on top of it all, we have a complete and total lack of construction records from the very people who were supposed to have built them.
When you put all those pieces together, it forces you to consider a radical idea. What if the ancient Egyptians didn't build the pyramids at all? What if they just found them, already ancient, already a mystery, and they became their caretakers?
And that brings us to the final, really provocative thought. Could the Great Pyramids be the last silent monuments of a forgotten chapter in human history? Are they evidence of a lost, highly advanced civilization that rose and fell thousands of years before our recorded history even began? Now that is the unsolved